Yo, what's good, everybody? Today is August the 13th, 2025. Most gracious and heavenly Father, we thank you, God, for another opportunity of prayer, oh God. We thank you, God, for allowing us the gift to see yet another day, oh God. We ask you, God, that you will continue to use us in many different ways, oh God. Hopefully, we were a blessing or impact on someone's life today, oh God. I ask you, God, that you will bless all the viewers. I ask you, God, that you will keep everyone that was covered in the accident and the New Jersey Transit and the city worker in good health. We ask you, God, that you just be with them, guide them, keep them. I ask you, God, that you will bless each and every viewer, as well as their family members, as well as our guests on this evening. And we ask all these things in the mighty and the matchless name of Jesus, we pray. Amen. Yo, what's
Amen.
good, everybody? Happy born to everybody that celebrated over the past week, anniversaries, milestones. Congratulations again. Let's please keep all our students as well as our teachers in prayer as they were returning back to school throughout the country, week by week. I know here in North Carolina, I believe that they started today or they're going to be starting tomorrow. Jersey, we always start late, but I know kids down in Georgia have already started. So let's please keep all these teachers, staff, everybody that's affiliated with the upbringing of our children, the education of our children. Let's keep them in our prayers. Things that this is not 1970, this is not 1980s, and this is not the 90s. Teachers are faced with very different challenges, let's say, in this day and age. So let's be very prayerful and keep them in our best regards as well. We're gonna jump right in as you guys come in. Please let us know what platform that you're watching on, whether it be Facebook or YouTube, as well as get in the comments if you have any questions for myself or tonight's guest or comments in general. Just get in the comments and we'll get to them. Helps with the show. You guys being a part of it. We want to invite you guys into the conversation. And with that being said, you know, I want to go ahead and introduce tonight's guest. He's returning from last week. We wanted to pick up right where we left off. My brother Chris Turner. I'm excited to have you back. But you know, I was just talking about the schools, and I had made a post this early this week. I don't know if you've seen it. I didn't get to do my homework before we went live. But did you see the thing that I post? Because I try to be very informative on my page. I like to post a lot of humor, a lot of different things and different whatnot. But it was a news story that I seen where this kid had brought a little sticker home to the mom, and the mom realized that the stickers that they were giving to these preschoolers, it was actually something in the sticker and causing them to go to sleep. They got the footage of the whole classroom just on their little bunks in sleep. And I'm like, man, thank God I ain't got no children that age anymore because it'll be some problem, y'all. I'm gonna be on the news. Like, I don't know if you've seen that or if you had any thoughts on that, but did you actually come
Like
across that?
melatonin in the sticker or something like that?
Yeah, it's like these. It's like, you know how you in elementary they give you these stickers for a good job and a sticker
Yeah.
for this and that. It was like this sticker was like a sleepy face, and then they had other stickers with smiley faces on them and whatnot. But this sticker here, it was literally putting the kids to sleep. And the mother, you know, she was protesting it or what. I didn't even get a chance to do more due diligence to see how far the story went. But I'm like, that's problematic, man. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I remember captioning it, you know, who's ever responsible for this, they need to be incarcerated because
Right.
that is abuse, man. You know, I mean, if you could indict Bill Cosby for putting stuff in fruit cups and that, like, what more, like, how disrespectful is that on so many different levels, especially when we're talking about children, defenseless children. You know what I mean? We entrusting
Yeah.
our children to you, and you're out here drugging these kids, putting them to sleep because you don't want to deal with it was just crazy. Like I said, it wasn't even a matter of like high schoolers. This was like maybe they might have been 4 or 5 years old. These was like toddlers. I don't even believe it was first grade yet. They're like maybe
Wow.
kindergarten or daycare or something. But yeah, man, it was totally disgusting just seeing that. And I wasn't sure if you when I was talking about school made me think of it. I was wondering if you had seen anything about that.
Man, I did see that post, but I wasn't fully aware of exactly what's going on. Yeah, somebody need to be criminally charged with something because, especially without parental permission, like that's
Mm-hmm.
something that need to go home with a permission slip at the beginning of the year, if it was even allowed from the school system itself.
Yeah,
Yeah, he did. Yeah,
I'm with you,
that's
man. Like
diabolical.
it should be illegal every single.
Yeah,
At the end of the day, you giving my kids drugs in
yeah, for
some shape,
sure.
fashion, or form. Might not be,
Melatonin stickers.
yo, that's absolutely absurd and crazy, bro. I could not believe my eyes. I thought it was like at first I thought it was AI until I went and looked, but I didn't get it enough chance. I didn't deep dive into it to see exactly where they were, or
Hmm.
what area it was from. But if anybody that's watching this or in the comments know exactly what I'm talking about, please feel free to give us, put it in there. And if you haven't subscribed to the YouTube channel, please go ahead and subscribe to the YouTube channel as well. That's the Marvin Bennett Jr. Show on YouTube. And you can watch that way as well. But please go ahead and subscribe. The subscription is free, doesn't cost you anything at all. But it'll be gladly appreciated. And I thank you in advance. Okay. So before we get back into the deep part of the conversation that we will pick up from last week, I don't know who's out there, and I know a lot of viewers. Now I got a mixed crowd of viewers. We got hip hoppers, we got church folk, we got non-church folk, different things. But I like to use this platform to have good conversation. I was wondering how you guys felt about the whole Cameron and Omar Gooden back and forth. I don't know if you guys seen it. I was catching Chris up to it, but everybody knows that Cameron and Mace, they have the It Is What It Is, podcast that's been doing phenomenal and whatnot. And I watch it literally every day when it's on. I don't think I've missed the episode yet. Well, I won't lie.
Okay.
I have missed episodes when Cam wasn't there. Like when it just Mace by himself, I'm not watching Mace by himself because like that's just too much for me. Mace is not my cup of tea. In that particular platform because he has no idea what he's talking about when it comes to sports. That's just my take. Like I don't get it. But anyway, they're back and forth banter just like Skip and Shannon had and Mike, Stephen A. Smith, and it's always good to have that back and forth banner. So, on this particular episode, Cam was making the point of how retired actors or people that we haven't seen in a while, they need to get together, put their money together, and come out and do something. The Ving Rhames, and when he was talking about Omar Gooden, he said that he's a good actor, but he called him Omar Gooden Jr. And Omar is also a comedian as well. So Omar went online, he went on Instagram Live and was like, "Yo, Cuba Gooden Jr. Like I'm Omar. I can't be a junior if my father's name is Cuba." He was making a joke of it, and Cam took it personal. So Cam came back with him. Cam was trying to let it go. Then Omar said something else. Omar actually came out with a diss track. Then Takeoff did pretty good. So Omar, he's he's talking like a regular rapper with some smoke, want to smoke. He's having beef and telling Cam this here and that there. So Cam was like, "Listen, man, I done told you, look, you mess with grown men. Let's stop this. Let's leave this alone." Omar comes out with another diss track, and I can't even lie. The diss track is very impressive to me. It is good. The beat is the fire. What he's saying, the content is actually dope. So what Cam does is over the past week, Cam creates this fake movie and offers Omar Gooden the leading role. He's backstage filming it. They got Omar on camera doing the signing the contract and everything. And then Cam waits and he releases it. He lets them know, "Dude, that movie that you was shooting last week in Miami, like, yeah, that was me. That was for a fake movie that's never coming out. Like, these ain't the games you want to play with me." So
diabolical, man.
diabolical, exactly. So I was just wondering if anybody else said it or what people think was that for that before we get into the serious matters of the show. Because I thought it was absolutely hilarious. But kudos from the rap side. And people got different takes on it. I was listening to Sirius earlier, and they were kind of talking about it, and they were saying how surprisingly a lot of people were saying they gonna give the edge to Omar because he actually released the 2 diss tracks. Cam ain't said he's just talking, and he King Petty. He's petty. I won't call him King Petty. That's disrespectful. There's nobody more petty than 50 Cent. You don't want no kind of problems with 50. 50,
yeah.
He owns the crown of being of pettiness, in my opinion. But Cam is right up there. Cam is definitely close to it. but it was just so comical, and they was the point that a lot of people were making was the fact that Cuba came out with him. I mean, I'm sorry, here I go again, like Cam.
Yeah.
Omar, he actually has the 2 diss tracks, but at the same token, for Cam to be a rapper and not respond at all, it makes you look kind of weak. Now I get that, but to me, I look at it almost like basketball or anything else. Like if you call me out and you're from a different genre, so to speak, like why would I really waste my energy?
Yeah.
Like that's like challenging LeBron to 1-on-1. I don't care whether you like LeBron or not. You're not beating LeBron James on 1-on-1.
You're not.
You know what I mean? You can say whatever you want to.
You're not gonna score.
If you LeBron, why would you even entertain playing somebody that's talking trash to you? So I get both perspectives, man. How do you think that you would handle a situation like that if you was in Cam's position? Would you release this track? Would you come back at him or not?
I would not release a diss track, but I loved what he did though. Now I'm not in the hip hop scene, but I heard that Omar Gooding was a decent lyricist. And I heard that he had some good material that he was trying to put out there. But if you come at a rapper with a diss track,
yeah,
I think what he did was genius because he came into his genre. So what he did was he went back into his genre. So they didn't cross genres. He went to the acting scene, but it was a fake actor, just straight that's diabolical, man.
Yeah.
Because now where does it end? You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Where does it end? Because Omar is trying to figure out how to retaliate.
Mm-hmm.
And so
what's funny is
going to have to always be on his toes.
Yeah. And the funny thing is, so for full disclosure, Cam actually released it today, a post saying, I already told you, I warned you, and I told you, I'll give you another $10,000 for us to do the movie. Because they actually did a movie called Percentage. I've never seen it, but they did a movie together, Percentage, years ago. And he told him he'd pay him another $10,000 for them to go ahead and finish this fake movie, and they co-star together and come out with it. Now, having said that with Cam, we done seen this play before too, with the whole him and Jim Jones just earlier this year, with the back and forth, they going back and forth. And it's like, just for me and my skepticism, in the year 2025, they handle things differently now than we did back in the 90s. You know what I mean? It's like you got to question and ask yourself how much of this stuff is actually real, or did they plan this intentionally for it to go viral? So now people are looking for Omar Gooding music. Cam is going to get it. You know what I mean? So a lot of this stuff is orchestrated today when in terms of these beefs and these different riffs. And I would even go as far as to say I feel the same way about the church. I think a lot of these people are doing things as far as clickbait. You got people like Jamal Bryant. I seen your post earlier too. But he's one of those ones, and I'm not talking bad about him. I'm just giving my opinion. I think he does a lot of things and says a lot of things for that attention, to get you in to actually hear what he's saying. Now, the message that he delivers after that, but I think a lot of it is shock value. And I think that's the era that we're living in now with viral moments and the internet and what have you. I think a lot of these people, they don't necessarily, I would go as far as to say they don't necessarily believe in what they're saying, but they're doing it for shock value so that they can get you in. Even that, I can't stand them, but Charleston White, he says that quite often. You know what I mean? I say a lot of this dumb stuff, so once I got your attention, I can speak the knowledge to you and make you think and things of that nature there. And everybody has a different, they're entitled to their own approach. But I have to be a skeptic of it and your motives of why you're doing what you're doing, in terms of that. But I hope it doesn't get drawn out. I hope it doesn't last long between both of them, because I really like both of them. I like Cam and I like Omar Gooding. But it is dope. Hey, what's good, Sam? Sam said Jamal never is held accountable, in my opinion. Hey, Sam, I seen last week too that Chris, man, if you want to come on, I can send you the link if you want to, bro.
Come on, Sam.
Yeah, come on and join the conversation, man. But yeah, man, we could. I just wanted to hit that on a little bit.
Yeah.
But we could pick up right back where we left off again. For those that didn't watch the playback or didn't watch the live last week, this is my man my brother in Christ, Chris Turner. His father was the founder and pastor of the original Upper Room Church of God in Christ, here in Raleigh, North Carolina. And he was a member there till his father passed away, and he moved to Greensboro. I, I don't have to give it to you. You up here, you can speak for yourself. Tell little people, fill the people in that wasn't here last week about who exactly Chris Turner is.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So I did, as you told, I moved to Greensboro because my mother moved to Greensboro, and then after I gave my heart to Jesus when I was 20 years old, and then got married, started having children, and then wanted to raise my family um, with the same type of teaching that I grew up with, and I could not find it in Greensboro. And so what I did was I prayed about it, sought the Lord, and then I ended up moving back to Raleigh. And the only reason to move back to Raleigh was to serve under Bishop Patrick L. Wooden and to raise my family, being a part of that ministry. So the first time he became my pastor after my father passed away, and that was not a choice of mine because I was too young. But when I did move to Raleigh, that's because I wanted him as my pastor again, and then stayed there. He was my pastor for 28 years before then I eventually relocated out of Raleigh, and now I'm in Wisconsin.
Okay.
But yeah, so that's my history in terms of my family and then ministry. Right now, I'm in a ministry called Greater New Birth Church. Bishop R.J. Burt is my pastor in the great city of Milwaukee, Wisconsin, who we suffered some water damage, as you may or may not know, that Milwaukee got hit with some heavy rain this weekend, and a lot of flooding going on around the city. So keep us in your prayers. Me personally, my home was not affected, but just about 90% of the people that I know is cleaning out their basement as we speak.
What is that adjustment like for you as a kid from North Carolina being in Wisconsin now? You still with me, Chris? You froze up.
Man, I'm sorry.
Nah, you good.
Look like we froze. What is the adjustment like? What?
Being a kid from North Carolina, readjusting to, I remember like leaving New Jersey, the inner city, and moving to Little Rock, Arkansas, and that's when I discovered the word culture shock, because that's exactly what it was. It was totally different worlds. So in your turn, in your own words, what was it like for you going from being born and raised in North Carolina, readjusting, moving all the way to the West Coast up in Milwaukee?
Man, it was a shock. It's crazy because my wife is from Milwaukee, born and raised, right?
Okay.
And so she was fine living in Milwaukee with the gunshots and the sirens all night. And so, after we were married, she would sleep good because she was secure. But I couldn't sleep, man. Gunshot 3-4 blocks away, almost every single night, sirens all night. And I looked at my wife one day and I said, I cannot do this. We're gonna have to do something. And when it was time to look for a house, we agreed that we would go outside of the city of Milwaukee, and the town that we live in now. It's in a subdivision, and it reminded me of home. It was a lot slower than in the city, but it was a culture shock because crime and violence is high in the city of Milwaukee, and so not only getting used to the cold and the frozen tundra, sub-zero temperatures, and then long winters, winters lasting up until March, April, at the end of April. It was trying to get used to the violence, and just something that I couldn't do. So when President Trump is talking about sending some troops into Washington, D.C. I'm keeping an eye on that now because, Milwaukee might be one of them cities that if it works, he might need to do it in Milwaukee for sure.
Yeah, man. And I noticed that, we both, I try to stay away from politics, but sometimes you can't help it because it's just part of the conversation. But it's like, man, I like to try to avoid it, but sometimes you just can't help it. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I'm one of those people. I tell people, I'm my own man. Let's start there. And I listen to everybody else. I understand the perspective. I'm willing to listen to anybody's perspective. I thank God for our elders. I thank God what our ancestors been through for us to have different rights. But I always go back to the same thing, and this is just my outlook. If you tell me that I have a choice between getting stabbed, shot, or raped, I'm not choosing none of the three. You know what I mean? I need better options for a better choice. So, having said that, I wasn't for Harris. I wasn't for Trump. You know what I mean? A lot of people think, oh, well, yeah, you say that because you for this one. I'm telling you, I don't play games, and I'm not scared of anybody. I'm not for none of these jokers at the end of the day. You know what I mean? And a lot of church people, they like to say, well, you have to vote for which party aligns with your spiritual beliefs. Yeah. Now, having said that, to me, that sounds like an oxymoron for the simple fact that neither one of the parties are going to align with your spiritual beliefs, whether you're talking about the Democrats or whether you're talking about the Republicans. So do you go with 3 out of 7 versus 4 out of 10? Like, how do you decipher? Because whether you're talking about how your stance on abortion, whether you're talking about your stance on immigration, whether you're talking about gun control, whether you're talking about racism, whatever, there's going to be opposition on both sides. There's going to be some things that would line up with your spiritual beliefs on this side and some on this side. So I just never really get into that. But I thought this was like a big farce. As far as what they're doing in DC. Okay, this is the question that I posed to myself, and this is rhetorical. But at the same time, it's like, okay, you're saying that you want to get rid of the criminals, and that was one of the best ones that I've seen so far. It said, I applaud President Trump for trying to get rid of the criminals in DC. So when are you turning yourself in? I thought it was hilarious. But here it is. You're talking about getting rid of the crime in DC. You're trying to get rid of all the homelessness and clean the city up, so to speak. But where was this same, like, how can you say that and I take you at face value and trust you at your word when the first thing that you did as president was pardon the people that stormed the Capitol on January 6th? What are those? Like, that was a criminal act. That was violence at its all-time high in the same city that now you want to clean violence in the streets up with. It does not make sense to me whatsoever, man. So, I think it's a slippery slope. And I said it in the beginning because, a lot of people, and I'm not telling people, again, I don't care who you support. But if you are a Trump supporter, it's like, be very careful. Be very careful because it all sounds good when we talk about immigrants and building a wall and all that there. But when does it stop? At what point does it stop? When he start coming for American citizens, different people that live right here, that's born and raised here. Like, where do we draw that line at? Because I feel like it's a matter of time, which is why I think that we all need to stay prayerful, because I think this is just the beginning, man. It's like the old people used to say, it's gonna get a whole lot worse before it get better. So I think
it's a test run. I think it's a test run. And I also think that there's some kind of the sleight of hand to it. No politician can be trusted. It could be a distraction. We still being distracted from the Epstein files for sure. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, people have been talking about the gentrification that's been going on in DC for a long time, right? So now there's more going on in DC. It's been gentrified in a lot of places. And so now the pockets of violence that was always there, now it's close to different communities where DC used to be chocolate, right? And I'm just talking about Milwaukee.
Yeah.
Milwaukee is 37% black. And in
How
the
much?
inner city, 37%. A lot of people don't know that.
Okay.
Now, the state of Wisconsin is just about all white.
Mm-hmm.
But southern Wisconsin, where Milwaukee is 37% black. And so in the cities, it's a lot of violence, a lot of gunfire. Not saying that no violence in the white communities, but I'm saying when you talking about people in a group setting, a lot of people in an urban setting, when you live around a lot of black people, you're gonna hear gunfire. You're gonna have a lot of things going on. There's a lot of poverty. There's a lot of crime, and now where DC used to be Chocolate City, and you can tolerate it because we kind of tolerated living around it. Now it's been gentrified. So now there are a lot of other communities that live in those. Now they're hearing gunshot 3 or 4 blocks away, and they saying, "Hey, is it our town or is it their town?" And so Trump is trying to let everybody know that DC is getting ready to become their town because he's cleaning that thing up. And we can't. I know what people saying the statistics are that 30% or 30-year low in crime. Mm-hmm. But all I know is I got an elderly uncle was recently robbed and beat almost to death in the hospital for weeks. And nobody was ever charged. They ain't find nobody. Mm-hmm. All right. So again, it used to be Chocolate City, but now it's gentrified city. So everybody better figure something out.
Yeah,
it ain't the same.
And I agree. I agree from this aspect. I do agree with you. I'm not debating or disagreeing with you at all. But it's like I think optics plays a big part too, because like you say, you know, when we come from the inner city, you know, I was just literally having this conversation over the weekend with somebody that I grew up in Jersey with, and we were talking about how, you know, growing up in Newark and in different inner cities across this country, like it's almost, it's mind-boggling to me how, you know, we see death of classmates and different people that we know in the 40s and 50s now that dying of natural causes, and it almost devastates us more than when we was in high school and somebody was dying as a teenager. Like, that's mind-boggling to me that it was such a norm, you know, back in the day, to see, oh man, yeah, you know, Lil Pookie, man, Lil Ray Ray got killed this weekend, man, boom, boom, boom. Like, it was almost like the norm. Having said that, well, the reason I bring up optics is because I remember watching the document. I'm big on documentaries, but it was a documentary about they were in Wisconsin. I forgot the details of it because it's been quite a few years, but it was big. It was real big. I think even Netflix redid it after a certain amount of years, about this guy that had the property up there and was burying bodies on the land and in the cars and all this different kind of stuff. You don't see that in the city. But this was an all-white community. So I think a lot of times we associate violence with especially particularly gun violence and robberies, you know, B&Es and all that. But let's not think for 1 second that these things do not occur in these all-white communities as well. Like I said, I lived in Little Rock, Arkansas. I remember what it was like watching the news. You had different towns, and I won't put none of them on blast, but you got towns in the state of Arkansas that's literally 95, 97% white. And I mean, you talking about some of the most violent things you ever seen. It like, man, they don't even do that in the Jeffrey Dahmer movies, and these people is wilding. But no one ever seems to talk about that. All they ever want to seem to talk about is, you know, inner city violence as it pertains to us as a black people. And I think a lot of times, like, that's what we got to stop doing. You know what I mean? It's not that, against, of course, I'm not for police brutality and they doing it disproportionately to us, but it's infuriating when you can watch, you know, police officers that are sworn to protect you take lives, senseless lives that are black or brown people, and then you have a Caucasian young man go up in a church in South Carolina, literally kill people, and they bring him out in a bulletproof vest, stop at Burger King to get him a Whopper on the way to the precinct. Like, I can't ignore that. I can't ignore those optics when I see that thing. Like, how do we get past that? How do we get past the division in this country?
I want to hear Sam on that, but let me say it real quick. We can't deny. You can't deny, but this the world we live in, right? So my perspective is take that knowledge and let's live with that knowledge and not be foolish and stupid and think that we can act like everybody else. We cannot. Now, the Constitution says we should be able to, but the truth and reality is we can't. And I feel like in our community, we should be able to, and we should police our own community with good parenting, good community activism, and involvement from especially men of the community. But you know what? We do not police ourselves. We do not entreat each other like we really care about each other. We entreat each other like everybody on their own. And that's where we are as a community. Everybody's on their own.
Yeah. I agree, Julie. Thanks for your comment too. Julian said they're not going to talk about it because they want to just show one ethnic group. If you put everyone up, it will be a different story.
And I agree. To show.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that 1,000%. Hey, what's good, Sam? It's been a minute, man. What's going on with you, bro? No, I can't hear you, man. All right.
Yeah, so we give them something to show. That's my point is we know that's what they want to do, but we don't stop giving them something to show. Is what I'm saying.
Yeah. And like you said, I agree with you from the standpoint too. Like we could do a better job of policing ourselves. Like I get tired of people living in fear. I'm with Dale Hughley and them. I hate the term black on black crime because crime is crime no matter where it is. You never hear about Mexican on Mexican crime. You don't hear about white on white crime, but we come up with this phrase. And truth of the matter is people, they commit crimes against the people that they're closest associated to.
Yeah.
So of course, like nobody's from Clark, New Jersey or Union County in New Jersey is coming to Essex County to commit no crimes or still no crimes. It's not happening. They know better. So you do those things to people around you, but I really miss the days. I always talk about this. I thank God for me, and I'm being totally transparent. I always thank God for my upbringing because I really had no sense of the violent neighborhood that I lived in growing up.
Okay.
And that's not me being sarcastic or facetious or anything else. I really was totally naive to my surroundings because I grew up in church. So a lot of things I wasn't exposed to. I didn't know what marijuana was until I got to high school. And wasn't even sure what it was then, to be honest with you. You know what I mean? I didn't know about different things. But I remember I would see guys on the corner. I would see guys get beat up here and there. I didn't know if they were slap boxing. I didn't know if it was a crime being committed. I didn't know. Like, these are just different things that you've seen on a normal, everyday basis. But I do remember those at those same times, those same guys that were the drug dealers, that was the corner boys, that was the stick-up kids. All these same dudes, when they would see my mother walk into the corner on the grocery store, I remember them, hey, man, put that out, yo. Hey, put that 40 out, yo. They don't even know my mother's name. It's just the life that she lived commanded respect. It didn't demand respect, but it commanded the respect for them to, hey, listen, let her walk through here in peace. You know what I mean? Like, cause she ain't, you know what I mean? So I wish we could kind of get back to that era where we have respect in the nowadays. It breaks my heart when you go into the communities and I want to hear your opinion on that as well. But to me, I think a lot of times, I miss the reverence for the church and what the institution did in our inner city communities and what it symbolized. Having said that, is it the church's fault, in your opinion, that we don't command that same respect or that level of respect because there's so much foolishness going on in our churches. You seeing less and less outreach ministries in some areas. You know what I mean? You don't have the corner storefront churches like you used to in the 80s. Now they going out to the suburbs, building these mega churches, and you know what I mean? And it's just my opinion too. Shout out to Bishop Donna Hilliard there in Perth Amboy, New Jersey. He's one of the ones that I commend, great businessman, great preacher. But I watch him from afar and how he, bought a lot of the land there in the city of Perth Amboy and giving back jobs and making sure that people could afford to live in the houses that he owned and different things of that nature there playing his part. But, and there's no but. I applaud that. But a lot of times, again, is how much of the church is responsible for missing that? Because I honestly do believe, and this is just a personal thing, this is not theology or anything of that nature. It is not doctrine, but I do believe that you have a different heart for the people when you're amongst the people and you feel that struggle. You know what I mean? It's a difference when you're sitting up on the hill and you're so far removed, you don't remember what it was like to be worried to walk to the corner store. You pray a little different when it's relatable. What's your take on that?
Well, I do feel that there is some blame upon the church because I believe the church has disconnected itself from the community.
Can you hear me?
Yep, you good,
yes,
sir.
I do believe the church has disconnected itself from the community, and even the churches that are in the community or the storefront, I still believe that they're in their own world to the point where they're no longer touching the community. So no one knows, who the pastor is. No one knows who the brethren of the church is, and you get the same effect as when your mom, because your mom would be a community mother, because you got to put the cigarette out because she's a community mother, and it takes a village to raise a child, which is that old proverb. But now there's no respect for it because there are no more community mothers. There are no more community fathers. Everybody is, like I said, fragmented and disrespected. Mm-hmm. Oh, disconnected, not disrespected. I'm sorry. We're fragmented and a disconnected society.
What about you, sir?
Well, I missed a lot of it, but I've known Chris for probably almost 20 years, just from Upper Room. And the funniest thing about that is everybody thought me and my son attended the Upper Room because we were there all the time. Lil Sam, his son Micah, they played ball against each other. Coach Reggie, a lot of people was around there. So don't let this dude fool you. He can ball. Okay. He's not just a great coach. That dude can ball. But well, when I had to reset my computer and everything, and basically you was talking about, I guess, what's going on in DC. Mm-hmm. And I know you like to stay, Marv, you like to stay away from politics a lot. But my thing is, I guess one of the things that rubbed off on me from being around, he was Pastor Wooden back when I knew him, mm-hmm. that you have to say something. You have to be, mm-hmm. don't just whisper. We mm-hmm. have voices, but we have brothers and sisters that are out here just whispering instead of letting their voices be heard. So, I look at everything and I follow a lot, but a lot of people forget that about a month ago, the mayor of DC was saying that they had to implement a 2,000-hour mandatory overtime because they were short 500 police officers. So when you saw her press conference yesterday, after she met up with the DOJ and all that, Bowser was excited. She's like, now we can clean this city up. Like, this is the mayor of DC. This is the lady, this is the woman that I thought if Biden said, I'm going to choose a black woman to be my VP, it should have been her. Like, it was like, to me, she has managed a city. So she has that track record of a budget. She knows how to speak. She knows the politics of DC. So I'm not saying I would have necessarily voted for her, but I would have voted for her way before I did Kamala, and just because I just didn't think Kamala was qualified enough. It wasn't that she was a woman, because I wrote in 2020, I wrote in Tulsi Gabbard, who was a Hindu woman. I didn't have I voted for Ross Perot back against Clinton, but the reason why I voted the way I voted this time for Trump was because he was literally doing the same exact things that I voted for Bill Clinton for, which was cut the government. Remember, Bill Clinton, under him,
did.
we had a surplus. Like, there was no debt, we had a surplus. So I'm gonna go for, I haven't forgotten Tulsa or Selma or, the sit-ins in Greensboro or anything like that. It's just that I'm at a point now in my life that I'm looking at policies. I don't care about political parties. I'm unaffiliated. I'm registered unaffiliated, and my voting record has gone both ways. So when it comes to like what's going on in DC, the mayor was asking for 500 more officers. She was saying the officers was being worked into the ground, and the numbers dropped because 911 had to prioritize the calls because they didn't have enough officers. So my thing is this: do we want it to be safe, or don't we? Do we want our family members to get, taken out? I just had a classmate yesterday. Her and her husband were murdered by their 15-year-old nephew or cousin that they brought from Alabama or someplace to like try to say, okay, let's mentor him. He was a bishop at his church. He was like, let's not give up on these kids.
Wow, my condolences,
And
man.
the kids shot them, both of them. So this literally just happened yesterday down in Lillington.
I heard about that.
So that's the thing, is like, do you want it to be safe? Do we want it to be safe? There was a guy a couple years ago, and I'll land with a guy a couple of years ago when we was just talking, and he was like, dude, how come you ain't voting for Kamala? She like the first black woman. I said, dude, I'm gonna be honest. Montel Williams, when he was dating her, introduced her as a Indian. When she first got elected to the Senate, she was the first Indian to become a U.S. senator. So all of a sudden she's like that. But I just said, to me, she's not qualified. And he's like, well, she a prosecutor. I said, okay, so she know how to lock people up. But she hasn't ran a budget. She hasn't done a lot of those things. So I say that because it's like, we just have to stop the believing in the political parties and make our voice heard by making these politicians earn our vote. Because when I became unaffiliated this past year, I was polled 13 times the last election. Cheryl Beasley, Kamala Harris, Trump's people. I was being polled all the time. And that's why I tell folks, register as unaffiliated because they working for your vote. They don't have to work for Republicans' votes. They don't have to work for Democrat votes because they already got the vote. So why are they going to waste money on people that are already aligned with a party? So I just think that we have to have the two cards. Do you want safety to be able to walk around, or don't you? Like that's the thing right there, because we're these, as they would say, these YNs that's doing all this stuff, they're being coddled. They're, what's the scripture? Spare the rod. Like, we're making excuses for these young kids instead of holding them accountable. And that's why we in turmoil. All these young kids in DC, they're getting arrested for shoplifting or whatever, carjacking. They're getting released, and so that's a slap on the wrist. So guess what they're gonna do? They're gonna go right back out there and get it. Like, who wouldn't do that? Because a lot of people are so lazy, and these kids so young, they can't get a job. So how else they gonna get money? They got to rob people. So I just think that we have to get to a point to where forget about Donald Trump. Do you want to believe like the mayor of DC believes that this is well needed resources that can help this city finally become safe like it's meant to be? It's the capital of the country. But yet you got to watch your back in the capital of the country. Or do you want it to be like when I was growing up in Detroit, where we had to play on the floor because bullets came through the window? So I just think that's the choice when it comes to like DC or any state. DC City Council is the one who voted for the feds to be able to come in and do what Trump's doing right now. That's
And
what
they're
people
happy.
don't understand. Like the City Council of DC voted for it. So what people should start doing instead of fussing at him, half of that council is still in office. People need to be fussing them out on why they empowered, their statues to where the White House could come in and do it. People mad for the wrong reasons. And that's my thing is like, I wish our black folks was more offended by what's going on in our communities than what's at 1400 Pennsylvania Avenue.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing. We don't care about what's happening in Durham or Raleigh or anything like that. We sitting here focused on, we're sitting here focused on, somebody that ain't even thinking about us. So I think that's where we start is stop, letting Al Sharpton and Ben Crump throw up all these smoke signals.
Now Sam, on my show, man, I'm the only one that's supposed to keep it that real, man. You can't come on here, spitting facts like that. But yeah, you want to comment, Chris?
Well, I mean, he's absolutely right. And like him, I registered independent when I was 18, and my voting record reflects that I'm
Hey,
not.
mute your mic while you ain't talking to us, Sam. Chris getting an echo.
Is it me?
I think I only heard it when your mic is on.
Okay, I just muted.
So yeah, so I registered unaffiliated when I first registered at 18. So it's very interesting because our people we become so mad and I'll use the word emotional about the slightest thing, and it's always the wrong thing. So when Obama came to running for president, I was very excited about Obama, his first term as he was running for president. And I thought that, man, this guy could be the one. And I really think the greatest president really can come out of the Democrat Party. But they'll have to turn away from, they're really going to have to deny their own party. But they have what it takes to come up and actually be the best president I think the country ever seen. So I thought Obama could be that person because he kept using the term cross the aisle. I mean, he probably, if you look at his old speeches, he probably said it 100 times as he was campaigning. Cross the aisle. So, okay, this guy might have some sense on his head, and he might be able to bring this country together and actually do some good, right? Mm-hmm. And he got elected, and one of the first things he did was repeal Don't Ask, Don't Tell, right? And that really, 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 it infuriated me, first of all, because how can you even think about using terms like across the aisle and then go somewhere, repeal Don't Ask, Don't Tell, which was something that wasn't even a topic of discussion the entire election. Nobody had ever talked about Don't Ask, Don't Tell. And so when he did that, it started what was going to be his legacy. And by the time he finished that first term, he took my vote. I rejected him altogether because it was obvious what him as an individual. It was not just the party; it was him as an individual, even more so than what the party has done. But I still think that if the Democrat Party get themselves together and have a leader that can actually lead, because I believe the Republicans lead by an individual, but the Democrat Party lead by policy, right?
Mhm.
So you can throw somebody up. This person ain't right, or this person don't win. Just throw the next person. It don't matter who it is, and that's the problem with their party. They not they build up an individual that can be able to actually lead, because they don't lead by leadership. They lead by policy. But I appreciate Sam and his take on that.
Yeah, what I wanted to say to what Chris just said, he said he believes that there's a person in the Democratic Party. I doubt it. And I'm just being real. Hakeem Jeffries is not going to run for president because he knows how much power being, you know, the leader of Congress. Look what Nancy Pelosi did. She grew her wealth to $200 million as the speaker, you know, as being the leader. He's not going to give up that power. Is it going to be AOC? Is it going to be Jasmine Crockett? Like literally, I can tell you 6 people on the Republican side that could run for president. Tulsi Gabbard, J.D. Vance, Vivek Ramaswamy, Byron Donalds. I can tell you people that have a track record. You know, who's the Secretary of State? Mark Rubio, Ron DeSantis. You know, and these are guys that's running. Ron DeSantis is about to get a bill signed to where property tax for your homes is going to be eliminated.
It's coming.
Like, who every homeowner in the country is out of their mind if they don't vote for eliminating their property tax on their house.
So Sam, check it out. I think now that's because the Republican Party raised up their leaders, right? So I don't think that there's somebody that's visible now that can do it. No, because they all just playing the game, like you're saying. But I think the party, if somebody really raises up out of the party, that the platform is there. If they kind of reject like half their platform and actually be able to lead, there's somebody who can come up through that party and do it. But I don't think there's somebody that's visible right now. That's what I'm saying.
Well, let me tell you what the Democrats will do. The last time that they had a Democratic actually where they allowed the people to vote for who was running was the first time Obama ran. The second time Obama ran, he lost all the support of them white women that wanted him to codify Roe versus Wade with the Freedom of Choice Act that he promised them he was going to sign into law. Once they confronted him and he said he wasn't going to do that anymore because he knew if he codified it, what are they going to run on? They won't be able to run on reproductive rights. You can't fix. It's like doctors. When you go to the doctor, they don't try to cure you. They just try to cure symptoms so you can keep coming back, so they keep that gravy train going.
Mhm.
So you have Joe Biden. Hillary Clinton. Bernie Sanders was leading her. I was a Bernie bro. I
Me too.
donated money to that cat. What
Stole
did
it
they
from him.
do? They leaked emails showing they stabbed him in the back. When it came to 2020, they put Joe Biden in there. And then what did they do? They didn't have a primary, and the rich folks put Kamala Harris in power. So that's the thing. Like they're supposed to be Democratic, but they're not even allowing the people to pick their folks. So the last thing, when we talk about somebody rising up, anytime somebody has risen up, like when Tulsi Gabbard rose up and she smoked Kamala Harris and basically made Kamala drop out after that debate. What happened? Hillary Clinton started, oh, Tulsi's a Russian spy. She's this, she's that. And Tulsi was like, you know what? It's all good, but I still voted for her. But the thing is, Jasmine Crockett, they was pumping her up for months saying, oh, she's going to be like the rising star and stuff. So they had her head all gassed up. She was going to run for the strongest committee in Congress, the Judiciary Committee, and she wanted to be the leader. Guess what happened 3 weeks ago? She only got one vote, and it was her own. She came in last place.
She's a laughing
All,
stock.
all the people was in her face and, girl, I got you, sister girl. Nancy Pelosi, that girl, I remember when you gave me my kente cloth. All that. And look what they did. They stabbed her. They eat their own. Like when the Epstein files didn't get released, what did you see? All these MAGA folks coming out saying, oh, Trump betrayed us. They were holding him accountable. They said, if your people said we're going to release them files, you had conservatives out there complaining like, you said you was going to release it. We want to see it. If Trump was a Democrat, people would be, oh, you got to just give him a chance. You shouldn't be given a pass just because you got a D behind your name. We have to hold all our politicians accountable. But what Chris is saying, if somebody comes out of darkness or whatever to try to become the leader of the Democrat Party, they cannibalize their own. If he or she doesn't have political sway, they're gonna eat them alive. So that's why I think, at least for the next 12 years, the Democratic Party is basically gone. Like, I don't see them with the roster that the GOP has, and you look at the roster that the dang on Democrats have, it's literally no contest. When I see all them people of the GOP speak, and that's the thing, they know how to message. When Trump was selecting his cabinet, he chose people that could deliver a message.
Mm-hmm.
They was all in the news, you know, they was all on TV. They knew how to present the data. They knew how to present their argument. When JD Vance had look how he ate Tim Walz up when they debated. He came out with facts. He knows how to message. And that was Kamala's issue. You had a week before the election, people still didn't know what she was running on. They didn't know what she was about. So that's the thing why I say she wasn't qualified, because in order to be a politician, you have to be able to deliver your message. It's just like a pastor in the pulpit. You can have everybody quiet as if they're in a Catholic mass, or you can have them jokers hopping over the dang on pews and all that stuff, wilding out because they got the spirit from the message that you help hit home. And that's what the Democrats got to be able to do.
There you go again, Sam. I'm glad you said that though, because I want to kind of get back to the conversation at hand. But you make a good point. And the last thing I will say as far as that, I'm glad you called me out too. I receive that because that's one thing that I do, and I have always respected about Wood myself. You know where he stands at the end of the day. Whether you agree with it, whether you do not agree with it, you know where he stands at. Mm-hmm. And I love that. I think we need more, particularly, and frankly, I think we need more spiritual leaders like that that's on the pose of the fence. One of in the same analogy that you just used, it literally grinds my gears, as old boy Jeff Foxworthy used to say. When I think about it, how growing up in church, you know, people, oh man, we had a time today. Word, what the preacher preach about? I don't know, but boy, we had a time today. Like, yo, and it makes you bring up a valid point, because you know it is a fault of all of us, I would think, to a certain degree. Chris growing up with his dad, of course, in the beginning, you're going to compare other preachers to your dad, because that's the example that was set before you. Having said that, I'm like that in the same regards. And one of the things that I miss about my bishop that left us in 2020, or the Lord called him home. I wouldn't say he left us, but the Lord called him home because his assignment was up. Was I could even remember as a kid growing up in church, like Chris can attest to this. I don't know if it was the same for him, but some of these messages you really not feeling. And unfortunately, we didn't have cell phones to keep us distracted. We had to use our imagination, go inside our minds where he wasn't interested in hearing what they had to say. But one of the things for me, even me to this day, and don't take this personal, I'm not talking about anybody directly because I know there's a lot of y'all Kojic folk out there watching. But it absolutely pisses me off as a preacher is preaching, and you got all these. Let me scale back a little bit. Male groupies, so to speak, up here, patting them on the back, cheerleader section, all this here. Like, yo, when I come to get a word from the Lord, you notice if anybody that ever watched me in church or watch my mannerisms, you ain't never seen me do all of that. The most you might see me do is stand up because I'm really feeling what you're saying. But if I'm really feeling what you're saying, I'm sitting there with my elbows on my knees, just like this. Because I'm eating. I don't need to be, boy, you been preaching all that. Like, I'm trying to hear what you're actually saying. You know what I mean? And it's like to your point, it's almost become this sport type atmosphere, whereas I need my soul fed. You know what I mean? I don't need to know Jones, who was one of my favorite preachers. So I love his delivery in it. But coming from where I'm from, bro, ain't nobody got time to be stopping by the store to get a thesaurus to hear you preach, because they don't know what you're talking about with all the words and the exegesis, this here to that there. I need to be able to speak to people I need people to talk to me on my level. You know what I mean? Because my soul is at stake. That's the way I'm looking at it. And the point that you make about the politics, a lot of that we gotta stop that too with black folk. Everybody that know me know I'm pro-black. I love my people. I love being black. I wouldn't trade it for the world. But at the same time, I'm not rocking with you just solely because you black. You know what I mean? Like, just like I even feel the same way within Christianity. And I've been having a lot of conversations over the last couple of years with that. And a lot of church folk don't like it, but that's okay. You're going to be all right. Just like I'm going to be all right. And we all going to give an account to God on that great day. But I'm at the point where I can't just believe in God or be a Christian based off of what grandmama told me, based off of what my mama told me. What are my personal experiences? Why do I believe in Jesus Christ? What has Jesus done for me? You know what I mean? Like, we got to get past this just taking things at face value, in my opinion. You know what I mean? Because let's be real. When we talk about the enslaved people during the Great Migration, all those people weren't slaves, weren't stolen. There was one shiesty joke over there saying, hey, listen, man, I got tickets for this free boat ride. And you know how many people got on those boats because of that brother that they trusted, led them astray? You know what I mean? And I look at politics the same type of way. I'm not voting for Barack Obama just because he's a brother. I'm not voting for Kamala Harris just because she's other. That's why I said, Sam, you let me be the bad guy. You can't talk all that facts, because when I first got introduced to it was back in 2000. I had a partner that I used to work with, and rest in peace to my man Ray. He was actually from California, where she was a district attorney. So I never knew who she was until I started working with him, and that's when around the time when they started coming up with the 3-strike law. I had never heard of this in any other state before, and he started breaking it down to me a little bit about her resume and what she was doing local. So I try to tell a lot of people too, especially when it comes to politics, like turn every once in a while, turn the CNN off and get with somebody in that local area. And I always say that because I remember, God forbid, this one. I said we was getting off of this, but I'm going back, and this is my last point on it. But I remember living out there in Little Rock, Arkansas, and I remember going home to visit in New Jersey one time, and I was like, yo, man, this dude Cory Booker, yo, man, he doing his thing, man. You know, he really putting Jersey on the map. And jokers, I'm talking about people that I know love me to death, was ready to chop my head off just for even mentioning his name. And then I was like, yo, what's up? Like, why y'all don't like Cory? Marv, you know why crime has went down? Because he got the paddy wagons rolling through the street, picking up everybody that's outside, whether you 82-year-old woman whether you a 16-year-old kid, everybody that's out on the street, putting them in paddy wagons, taking them downtown, North to Green Street, and we'll sort them out once we get down there. So you had literally people, I'm talking about dudes that I know as goons, like literally, hey, Marv, don't be messing around outside, yo. Get what you need out the car and get back in the house. Because you don't want to go wind up downtown. That's like crazy to me. But based off of what I was seeing on CNN and what he was doing from afar, you know what I mean? I'm thinking he's doing a great job until I talk to the people of that community. So a lot of times we got to stop getting past this, what we seeing on this national stage, even within church. I don't care about what you're necessarily doing on Sunday. Sometimes I really care about what you're doing Monday through Saturday. What are you doing in the community? Do you have a book bag giveaway? Are you going to visit people in the hospitals, or are you sending a team? You know what I mean? Like Chris said earlier, I miss those days. Like one thing about my bishop was, and we used to, God knows we used to hate it. When my dad was the armor bearer before there was even a term. It was like, oh my God, can't we go home? This man just preached. We've been in church for the last 3 hours. He go change, get out his wet clothes, and come back down, and he's greeting everybody that wanted to speak to him. You know what I mean? He was accessible. And we don't see that a lot of times in these churches no more. Oh, you set up a meeting to talk to the pastor, but you come to find out 3 weeks in advance when you get to your appointment, oh, this ain't even with me and the pastor. This is one of his assistants. Like, where the disconnect. We got to get back to the source of things, and people need to know that your community, you actually care about them, because I say it on the show all the time. People do not care what you know until they know that you care. And we got to get back to being personable to one another and in our communities. But yeah, last week when we left off, Chris, we were talking about the last thing that we had talked about was how Leandria and what she was going through, and she was talking about the different traumas that she had experienced. And one of the things that I had wanted to ask you, and that we said we was going to get into on the next show when you came back, was, you know, you hear a lot, especially in this day and age now, you know, I forgive you, but I won't forget. You know, I'm over this and I'm over that there. I ain't got time for the toxicity and all this drama here. I'm living my best life. I'm at a place of peace and all this here. Me personally, I think a lot of that goes contrary to the design that God has for us and our purposes in our life. Because God forbid that one person that you're not willing to tolerate no more is the one person that God is going to use you to bring about a difference in their life. But because of your position and because of your free will, God's glory won't be manifested, because you choose to keep your peace, so to speak. When I look at the word Christian means to be Christ-like. I don't never see Jesus taking that position from my vantage point. If anything, it was just the contrary. What did the disciples tell? What you doing with her? You know she a hoe, like she a prostitute. You ain't got no business being over here. He said, hold up. First of all, who are you to tell me who I can associate myself with? But this is the person that needs me. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So when we take that position, I wonder a lot of times, are we really healed? Are we really delivered when we can't confront our past or things that we've experienced? What's you guys' take on that?
Well, you have to be deliberate, excuse me. You have to be deliberate with relationship. We are so far away from relationships to where it's like we're so selfish. It's just me and my crew, me and my phone, and I'm fine with that. You know what I mean? Well, the whole world and everybody in it, right, according to scripture, was really we're here for relationships, right? So the disciples asked Jesus about forgiveness. Jesus was talking about forgiveness, and he said, well, how many times am I supposed to forgive, right? Mm-hmm. And Jesus said 70
times 7.
times 7, right? 490 times.
That's a
So
lot.
how do you, and that's talking about one person with the same situation that many times, right?
Mm-hmm.
So how do we do that without relationships? How do we do that and just cut people off, right? It's not possible. In order to fulfill that scripture, that goes completely against the cut people off doctrine that we're in, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and then Jesus says this: at least you have to attempt. He told the disciples when he sent them out, 2 by 2, he told them to go spread my gospel, right? If they don't receive you, then wipe the dust off your feet. Don't worry about it. But if they do receive you, then give them what I've given you to give them, right? So now, how do you know somebody's not going to receive you if you cut them off? If you decide, okay, we've had our difference, or we've had our time, our season has ran out, and it's over for you. I'm walking the other way, and I'm not going to holler at you no more because it's over. It flies in the face of really everything, Old and New Testament, in terms of relational and relationships with between men and men. So, people, the people of God. So it's real tricky because you're going to put yourself in vulnerable spots,
Mm-hmm.
and you have to be able to be okay with being in a vulnerable spot. Now, not be a fool. You don't want nobody to play you for no fool, like a Cameron.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Next time you get a offer for a part, you want to do your due diligence and make sure that it's real. You know what I'm saying? But we have to be able to. We're not going to move forward in life if we're stuck in one spot, and if we're not willing to open up and have the opportunity to give ourselves to other people, then we're going to be stuck in that one spot where our trauma ended us. Because a trauma would get you to the place where you want to clog everything up, close it up, and don't go outside no more.
Mm-hmm.
And in the case of Leandra, just drink your troubles away, right? But you have to be able to point to open back up. You got to hurt. You're hurt. You got to heal, open back up, and become vulnerable, but wiser at the same time.
You got anything to add to that, Sam?
No, he said it all.
Mm. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I agree with that. And like I said, I just think I think it's a cop out when I hear people say that. And I get it. You're entitled to feel however you want to feel. And move however you want to move. If you're all about protecting your peace, cool. It's just that as me as a believer, is me as when I think about the word Christian again, I never seen Jesus take that position. So why should I have that position that, you know what? I've never seen in the Bible where Jesus fed his feet to 15,000 people, where he said, you know what? I've been doing ministry for the last 3 months. It's time for some me time. You know what I mean? I need a vacation. I need a break. You know what I mean? So it's like, and people they think I'm being very sarcastic when I say things like that there, but no, like he's given us the blueprint. If we are to believe that the Bible, and we believe that the life of Jesus Christ and that it existed and the things that he did, or that we're taught to believe, then why would we try to follow that? And it's been, me and Sam have heard me say it on the show, and I got into that discussion with other people too, but it's very controversial. But I'm like, that's one of the things that I loved about Malcolm X. When I look at even though he was of a different faith, Malcolm X, his lifestyle was literally like more Christ-like, in my opinion, than a lot of Christians and true believers. He literally was willing to lay down his life, literally, for what it is that he believes in, the betterment of his people. And just imagine if he could do that from another faith. Imagine how much more effective Christianity could be if some Christians would actually follow the attributes of Jesus Christ and that mindset that my life is not anything. And I tell people, you look from Genesis to Revelations, nothing that Jesus did was for him. Everything that he did was for everyone else that was to come. Nothing, it was no selfishness in him whatsoever. So when do we as believers and followers, when do we get to that point where, you know what, it's time for, it's not about me. It's not about my peace of mind. It's not about sparing myself from heartache. You know what I mean? Jesus knew that Judas was going to betray him. He knew that Peter was going to deny him. But he didn't take the position that I'm not going to do this because I know that people are going to do me dirty. I'm going to do it in spite of having the knowledge, knowing that people are going to do me dirty. If we as Christians and believers could take on that mindset, I think that, man, it'd be astounding what the body of Christ could do. It's funny too, because I was watching maybe about a week or two ago. For some reason, you know, the Lord dealt with me in different ways. I watched different things here and there. But for some reason on this particular day, I was watching a lot of Charles Adams. I don't know if you guys, well, you might be familiar with him, Sam. He was a preacher out of Detroit. And he's known in history. If you want to know who he is, you can look him up on YouTube. He was the one that gave the impassionate prayer at Rosa Parks' funeral, and it just went viral. And it's a great prayer. But I went back and watched it. I said, let me. Okay, it was a good prayer. Let's go see what he's actually preaching though. And I came across a lot of his the ones that I could find, a lot of his sermons, and it was very enlightening from the aspect of, I was up until maybe like the last 2 or 3 years, I was having this conversation with my brother on the show, Kevin Danley, around election time. How I was talking about how I think that church and state needs to be separated, and I don't, when I go to church, I don't want to hear how you feel about policies and different things of that nature. There, I want you to preach the gospel, nothing but the gospel. And it's like, I can admit that my viewpoint on that has kind of changed sometimes, because I need to know. I don't need you to go in depth into politics from the pulpit, but I do need to know where you stand at as a man. Like I said earlier, one thing about Wooden is you're going to know how Wooden fight. I mean, where he stands at, Wooden going to give you numbers. He's going to give you statistics. He is his own man. And I think we missing that sometimes, you know, just having people that stand for something. Doesn't have to be popular. Doesn't have to be liked by everybody, because let's be real. Nobody's going to agree with nobody 100%. Husbands and wives, parents and children, like nobody's going to see eye to eye 100% of the time. But what are you willing to jeopardize? What are you willing to stake your life on as far as whether you believe, man? I think we need to get kind of back to that in regards of, like you said earlier, Sam, you know, standing for something, you know. And like I said, I like to shy away from some of those topics, but I do believe that my voice needs to be heard in some aspects, whether you like it or not. And I can live with that. I'm gonna still sleep good at the end of the night, even if you disagree with me. You know what I mean? But I want to see the church body as a whole get back to the place where we're actually doing ministry and not just talking about it. We're not trying to recreate an atmosphere of God's moving. We're highly over emotional in church these days, because you see somebody crying, and that does not mean that that's God. You're just emotional at this particular time. You know what I mean? So I think we need to really get back to the basics. Essence. I used to hate the song when I was growing up because I never really understood it. But it's almost like Andre Crouch said, sometimes take me back to the place where I first believed. Like sometimes we overcomplicate things and we become so progressive. We need to get back to the basics, man. But as far as community and church, how do you think that we could bridge that gap to get back to the place where the church is the black church in particular is the backbone of the community? And the reason that I was saying that, I went all around about, but I was watching from 2005, 2003 or 2005, the Black Summit with Tavis Smiley and Bishop Noel Jones, and it was a whole bunch of people on there, and it was a real good conversation. I couldn't understand at the time why God had me watching this or revisiting this. But one of the things that Farrakhan said in that, he was talking about before Farrakhan, Noel Jones was talking about how the black church spends $4 trillion a year. 4 trillion, not billion, but $4 trillion a year. If we could get past our own denominations, AME, Church of God in Christ, Southern, Baptists and all that did, and put this money together, put it overseas, we could have our own bank. We could bring about a difference in our communities. If we get past the semantics. And Farrakhan chimed in and he said, listen, we've marched, we've prayed, all those things are good. He said, but as Black Americans, do you know what the one thing that we haven't tried yet is unity? And it made me think. I said, we got all the jokes about the Mexicans coming over here and they're living at 15 in the house and got 8 people in the car at one time, but they're not wanting for nothing. They learn how to work together. Here it is in America. You got a Chinese, whether we know how they really feel about us or not, whether they feeding us cats or dogs, we don't know what the food is, but there's a Chinese restaurant presence in every city in America because they work together. What would it take for us as a Black community between church and activists? What do we have to do to get to actually trying this thing called unity and working together, even if we don't see eye to eye?
Me personally, I'm not sure if I'll see that in my lifetime, but at the same time, I was one of those parents that used to tell my son, yeah, you can be anything you want. But in the back of my head, I was saying, except president, until Obama's image. And even though his mother is white from Kansas, I still looked at him as a brother. It was, remember, in the Black community, everything is about symbolism. Want to be the first to do this, want to be the first to do that, as long as it's a certain way, because nobody celebrated the first female Black governor of Virginia. Nobody celebrated the first Black lieutenant governor of North Carolina. Nobody celebrated the first, people don't understand, when we have certain people, think about the Black community canceled and removed Ben Carson, Health and Science High School. They removed his name off that school because Trump made him HUD secretary. They literally, after he's donated $2.5 million to the school to get the microscopes, computers, all of that stuff, they took his name off because they said he doesn't align with us anymore. He grew up off 7 Mile in Gratiot. Mother couldn't read, single mother. It taught himself to read. Then he made history with 3 different surgeries that he performed that nobody else ever did. Mm-hmm. And yet, because he's the secretary of HUD, because he's grown up in the HUD system, y'all take his name off a school that he's donated $2.5 million for. So that, to me, as long as we have our Al Sharptons, our Ben Crumps, as long as we have people that are making all this money off of division, they don't want unity. They want division because that's what fills their pockets. At the end of the day, all them cats is about the dollar. Because you think back in the day, Donald Trump was the one who first endorsed Jesse Jackson for president. Sure. Donald Trump gave him $200,000 to start the Rainbow Coalition. Donald Trump allowed Jesse Jackson to use office space on Fifth Avenue, 400 Fifth Avenue, for free for 2 years. So they accept all this money. Him, Al Sharpton, Jesse, they accept all this money. But now, because the emotional side that Black folks have, now he the enemy. He it is. They forget about all those think about when Oprah Winfrey first started her show. The first person she had on her first show was Donald Trump because they was that tight. And he basically said, look, I'm going to support you. You, my friend. We need people to show up. And guess what happened? It was blockbuster. It put her on the map. And guess who was on her very last show? Donald Trump. Like, but now she don't want to have nothing to do with him. So as black folks, we have to look at all these quote unquote black leaders on how hypocritical they are.
Mhm.
You know, all these shows now, Home Alone and stuff, and The View. When he came out on The View, he kissing Whoopi Goldberg and them, kissing him on the cheeks and stuff, hugging. Oh, this is my friend. This is my friend. Now look how they act. So that's the thing. As long as you have culture vultures, you have race hustlers, we're not going to be, because Indians stay together, Africans, Nigerians stay together, white folks for the most part stay together. Everybody stays together except us. Everybody rotates their own money in their community, Hispanic community, all that. Soon as we get it, it goes out to those Nazi German brands, Chanel, Louis Vuitton, Gucci. You know, Hugo Boss. People don't know that Hugo Boss, he made his money. He designed the uniforms for Hitler's army. That's why they looked so stylish back then. Chanel was a spy, you know, for the Nazis. You know, so that's the thing right there, is like, until we stop relying on these race hustlers and trying to rely on other people to save us, we have to save our own community if we want something done about our own community.
Yeah, and you hit the nail dead on the head, because that's when, like I said, this thing is over 20 years old, and Farrakhan said the same thing. Like, look, we got to stop waiting, because at the time they was actually trying to come up with a contract, or there's a lot of preachers, so they said, I like the word covenant. So we going back and forth on whether we should call it a contract or like the simplest things, because everybody wants to take credit for something or so whatever to speak. But Farrakhan whole position was, before we could make a contract or a covenant, whatever you want to call it, with America, we have to make a contract or a covenant within our own community. You know what I mean? Like, we gotta come together and have these conversations, to the point that Sam made. Like, we gotta talk
now
about
look, have you noticed that you haven't heard a lot being spoken about Farrakhan? Now, he has his brother that replaced basically Malcolm X, that's on the Breakfast Club and stuff. But have you noticed how much you haven't heard from Farrakhan, or how much they haven't advertised? And I'll tell you why. Because he's supporting everything that Trump is doing, because the way he sees is, Trump ain't giving reparations, but Farrakhan basically said the field is going to be as even as it's ever going to be for black folks to be able to come up in wealth, like not taxing crypto and stuff like that. And the other thing is, people don't understand the game of chess that this cat Trump is playing. You heard of the MAGA Kids program, where every kid is being paid in a index fund $1,000 when they're born, all the way till January 2029. By the time that person can access it when they're 24, an index fund, that's going to be worth about $300,000-$400,000. And guess which one of his sons is going to be old enough in 25 to 28 years to run for president, and going to be able to use all that info? My pops gave y'all the 600,000 you got in your index fund. My pop's the one who did that back in 2024. The baby, he 19 now. That's what people don't understand. How these folks is building their kids, that's how we need to build our kids. When I look at Chris, like, I interact with Micah a lot, especially on social media. I follow everything Micah's doing, when he was doing the boxing, when he was getting in shape when he, now I see him doing the stuff down in Fayetteville, and it's like Chris prepared his kids. When I look at you, Marv, you prepared. I prepared my son. Like, we have to prepare our kids. So I tell people, if your child's not ready for the world by the time they turn 18, I look at the parent.
Yeah.
So that's what I mean by like the chess side and the Farrakhan. Farrakhan is now being canceled by media because he's talking about the policies and stuff right now that's going to help Black folks. Like the Pell Grants that come into effect October 1st for Black people to go to trades, and you get a Pell Grant for free. Remember, Obama removed that when he federalized student loans back in 2009.
He sure did.
So that's the thing right there, is like, so that's why you haven't heard any outlets and stuff talking up Farrakhan, because he's mentioning all those policies. You can find it online on YouTube and stuff, but you're not going to see it on main arenas like you used to.
Hey, so, can y'all hear me? Because my screen is frozen.
Nah, you good.
So
I hear you.
Man, I would like to definitely add on to that, but our community, those pastors and preachers and the churches, the business of church is hurting the camaraderie and the unity in the church, because each church, whether you are whatever denomination or non-denominational, it is the business of church. And so because you have those issues, those are barriers, and those barriers will stop us from being unified. But at the same time, politics will stop us from being unified. Anytime you have, a certain community voting at between 90 and 95% for one party, you can't become unified. Like, you're unified for the most part, just to vote for one party, but that party, again, as Sam said before, cannot, don't have to court your vote. You don't have to do anything to earn your vote. So, and it really gives us a disadvantage, and it works against our unity. Like, we've jumped so far behind Kamala Harris without any type of reasoning, right? But I truly wish we would have treated Condoleezza Rice, the way she should have been treated by our community. Our community joked on Condoleezza Rice and rejected Condoleezza Rice, and she was the highest ranked Black woman in American history. And because it wasn't in the party that we agree with, we disrespected that woman. And she was probably one of the brightest minds in the political field that the political field has ever seen, in my opinion, male or female. She was one of the brightest minds we've ever seen. And if we would have really jumped behind her, we could have pushed her to the presidency, for sure.
Yeah, and I agree, because like I said earlier, another thing that they have brought out, another point that Farrakhan had made in doing that statement too, he was like, no, it wasn't even Farrakhan, it was another preacher out of either Chicago or Detroit. He was like, one party, what's his name? Connors. John Connors. He was making the point that, you got one party that takes advantage of you, then you got another party that just takes. So, either way, and I think that sometimes we just got to stop being led astray, so to speak, or being so emotional when it associates ourselves with our with our Blackness. I had one simple question for people that was talking the whole Kamala Harris thing. Like, okay, I'm a dummy to sport. Dummy to politics. Tell me what it is. What platform is she running on? Tell me what it is that she's running on. I don't want to hear I got to vote for the sister. Just like I don't want to hear talk about, well, this church, look at all this church here. He could preach and all that there. Okay, What is he preaching about? What does he stand for? Like, I'm not just going to support you because you call yourself a preacher. I'm not going to support you just because you're black. I need to know what it is that you're standing for. And you brought up a good point, Chris, because she was associated, Condoleezza Rice, because she was associated with the Republican Party. She totally was not respected in the same regards that as she was. And I was just literally looking it up a couple of months ago. I was like, I want to do my homework because again, I'm naive when it comes to politics. I know the name Colin Powell, but I don't know exactly who Colin Powell was. And it's like I want to do my own homework and research to understand why don't we talk more about Colin Powell? Like for him to be in the position that he had, the Secretary of State, like Secretary of Defense, and like why are we not uplifting that? It's funny that you brought up Ben Carson earlier too, Ben, because I was flipping through the Sam. I was flipping through my my Fire Stick, and I came across the Ben Carson story. Now, if I'm not mistaken, I didn't watch it, but I remember when it first came out. I remember that I watched it then, and if I'm not mistaken, I think Blair Underwood was in it, or somebody of that magnitude. They did the little movie on him, but I remember thinking that it was a good movie. But like you say, soon as he took that position, all of a sudden he went from being this dude that we uplifted to. So it's like back to I was talking about earlier when it comes to Jesus lifestyle. It's funny how people will rock with you as long as you with their agenda, but just how quick they'll turn their back on you in the same regard. Like you said, Ben Carson, this dude was phenomenal at what he did and groundbreaking. But because he associated himself with the Republican Party, now we just gonna get to the level where we don't respect him at all. We go from respect in regard to just disrespect. We got to do better as a community. We got to do better as a people, and we got to, as Eddie Murphy said, we got to stop falling for the banana in the tailpipe just because they're black. Like that, just because they're black or you look like me doesn't. I said it the same thing. I don't know how much you guys know about it, and I say it on here because I don't answer to nobody. I'm not a resident. But what Ras Baraka is doing in the city of Newark right now is absolutely absurd and is crazy to a lot of people. But at the same time, a lot of people are saying this, but yet and all, you keep voting them in office. Like Sam said earlier, we got to hold these people accountable. And the difference, people, when I was having this conversation when I was home a couple weeks ago, and I said it. I said the difference between Cory Booker, when it was like, well, you had the same energy for Cory Booker that you do for Ras. I said the difference is Cory Booker was the mayor of Newark, but he wasn't from Newark. Ras Baraka is born and raised in Newark. He's one of us. And he's selling our city right up underneath us. Well, don't forget who his father was. Okay, yeah, that was his father. He obviously is not following in his father's footsteps. And just because you look alike, don't mean that you my brother or my sister. I'm sorry. Just because we look, I don't want to hear that brother and all that. Nah, man, if you want some BS, I'm gonna call you on it. And that's what we got to get to. We got to get back to holding one another accountable, man. What else was it? It was something about. Oh, Sam, do you know what's going on with it? Did you see the video I posted about Durham? Where a young man was saying that he was cyberbullying the mayor because they was selling Durham and everything else. Durham is the biggest corporation. Duke is the biggest entity in the city of Durham, but they just get rid of and misplacing all the black people and black communities in Durham. Are you up on that?
I posted on that a couple of years ago, and it was basically it's about gentrification. And what I tell folks is like gentrification back in the 60s, it was based off race, and they could like finesse the law to get black folks out of their homes. Now let's fast forward to 2020. Fast forward 70, 80 years. It's still happening, but the way they get all these black folks out of their home, they put a bond at the bottom of the voting, ballot, and the text of that says basically when this bond is approved, taxes will be waived in a high enough amount sufficient to pay for the interest and principal. Like it's literally a blank check. And everybody, because they pop, it's 150, one of them was 150 million affordable housing bond, but only 15 million went to affordable housing.
So
The
where did the
rest,
rest go?
85 million went to Kane Development to buy up all South Saunders and all that to where they're putting up that $2 billion arena. And now they're trying to get the baseball team. But that's what happens. Gentrification now, they tax us out of property. All them people around St. Aug, guess what? They not trying to bail St. Aug out because that is prime real estate. All those areas around downtown Raleigh, State Street behind the old DMV headquarters, all the houses they building is 1.1 to 2.1 million dollars. 1.1 starting. My wife always asks why we always drive through there. I said we're driving through there because I want to see how much rezoning placards I see or the next public meeting, so I can show up at City Hall and tell the folks how they getting finessed out of their grandparents, great grandparents' property that's been paid off. So I think that same thing is happening in Durham. You know, I think it's happening in any major area
right.
because all the black folks used to be near downtown because they were the waitresses, housekeeping, all that stuff. So all the housing close to downtown and public transportation was in those areas.
Now
But
they want it back.
now in Durham, in Raleigh, Chapel Hill didn't have too many areas like that, but now that's the prime real estate because these people, like there's a place in Raleigh called Worthdale. It's the Worthdale area.
Yeah.
Used to be 95% black. You ride through there now, it's about 30% black. You see Australians, Germans, Indians, you see everybody, you see jokers up there rollerblading, skateboarding, bicycling, pickleball, So that's the thing where I tell people now we're voting for it.
And they dangle the carrot. They dangle the carrot in front of us
And
by
they
way
put
of calling it affordable housing.
And I called the last mayor out on it because when I looked at the budget for that affordable housing bond, that $15 million, guess what? They didn't have nothing in the budget for education. So how are you going to educate the community on the program if you don't even have that in the budget? Because they know after 2 years, that $15 million could be reallocated somewhere else. And nobody could qualify for it because all the new houses were 250, starting at 250 to 350,000. Well, people was like, "Oh, I'm gonna get this affordable housing," and the bank would only approve them for 125,000. So nobody got approved. So none of that money got used because nobody could get approved for anything. All they're doing is building. That's why I tell people, do not buy Habitat for Humanity homes because the house is cheap because it's a land trust. So you can never buy your land. It's cheap because you're only paying for the building. And in the documents, it says in 99 years, that will revert no matter what family you got living there, it will revert back to the land trust.
So with Habitat for Humanity, you can't actually purchase the land. You have no option.
No, because it's part of a land trust, and the most value in buying a home is versus renting is in a home you build equity. I think everybody would agree that's the benefit of owning a home. Sometimes it seems like you spend more money. Oh man, the water heater broke. I got to pay out of pocket. I got to do this. But the amount of equity you gain, that's the hustle of the Habitat for Humanity homes. Is because let's say if you get a home for $150,000, you sign your papers, you sign those 40 signatures and all that, you start taking care of this home. All right, let's say in 5 years, the houses around you that aren't on the land trust, the value goes up to $500,000. It's near downtown. it goes
Mhm.
up to $500,000.
You can't get that.
You cannot sell your
You can't
house
sell it and get
for
profit.
more. You can sell it, but you can't sell it for more than what you paid for it. And you only can sell it back to the land trust.
Right.
Wow.
What kind of scam is that? That's why
Nah, that's highway robbery.
when the guy Morton, he's a basketball coach at Central, and he partnered with
Yeah,
uh,
Elmo.
he partnered with somebody to do the affordable housing project in Raleigh, and I responded to somebody that was congratulating him, and I said, "Oh yeah, he part of the club now," and they're like, "What? That's not good." I said, "Dude." And I sent him the video of the YouTube I did about the affordable housing and and the Habitat for Humanity home. I said, they're not creating generational wealth, they're creating generational renters because you can never hand it down, you can never sell it, you can't benefit from the benefit of owning a home. You will never get any equity.
So
So
the only way it
literally
works
you're
for
just
you,
renting.
only way it works for you is if you stay in it long enough to purchase it. But if you go in at Habitat for Humanity, after 5 years, you should be in a position to where you are ready to exponentially, increase your, where you live, right? So
Yeah.
now you should be at that same place.
But that's
So
the
then,
thing. You
right?
can't. And that's the scam right there that I tell people when you get a Habitat for Humanity home, read everything because when my wife and I closed on our last house, they were like, "Oh, it's gonna take like 40 minutes to an hour." You asked my wife, we was there for 3.5 hours. And they had to do 4 corrections that I saw in that contract that we weren't in agreement with. And they had to come in, the builder ended up driving there. Because I said, no, this ain't supposed to be in here. This ain't supposed to be in here. You said I'm supposed to have a 1 year warranty. No, this right here says 120 days. I said, they had to just revise a lot. But when they go off the emotion, when you buying your first home, yeah, you're a homeowner, you this and that, and then they have the APR rate is adjusted. So the
Hmm.
first few years is low. Then the next year it go up 2%. Then the 3 years down the line, it goes up another 3%. So when you started out with like a 3.5% mortgage rate, now you're ending up at the end of the line, you ended up with almost 10%. So basically, if you buy $150,000 house, financed for 30 years, 350 months, however long that is, you're literally paying almost double. You're paying more than double for that house. That's how important these little incremental interest rates are. Like we get calls all the time, and I tell the people, look, I'm not interested. I say if you can't beat 2.34% interest, because every time that interest rate was locking down before COVID,
Hmm.
oh, matter of fact, the last time we did the refinance, that's when we got the 2.34. That lady was at the house with the mask on. We had our mask on, and she's like, "Well, we got this other thing where you can get $85,000 for any projects." I'm like, "No, we good. All we want to do is refinance at our rate for the lower monthly payment, but we still pay the same original amount." So that's the thing. We just have to start educating the community. And I wish Al Sharpton and Ben Crump and all these supposedly black leaders, Jamal Bryant, instead of doing that, putting actually education out there like the guy I voted for, Ross Perot, did. He would buy up millions of dollars. He is a billionaire, buy up millions of dollars of TV time to educate people on how the electoral college works. And that's why I voted for Bill Clinton the second time, because he basically took the stuff that Ross Perot was running on and Bill Clinton implemented it. So that's the thing right there. So next election, or even now that North Carolina has voted that churches now can collaborate with politics, I couldn't believe that North Carolina signed that in the law. But now they can do all that stuff. I'm sitting here like, now we're going to be sitting in church and all we're going to hear all service is politicians getting up there talking, handing the pastor the envelope with the money in it and trying to convince us, getting all emotional. And that's the one thing I hate about so much being involved, with division with the church and state. I'm all for that. But to me, if you're gonna force our kids to like learn about LGBTQ, they should be able to pray if they want to. Now you could get kicked out of class if you were praying. So I think it's a lot of issues, but I think it's we may not see that time in my lifetime, but I hope eventually, and I definitely don't think the leader is going to be from the Democratic Party. I think it's going to be somebody who had left the Democratic Party, like Bobby Kennedy, Tulsi Gabbard, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent. He was a Democrat. Like all these damn on Democrats in the current administration because they got stabbed in the back by their own party. So to me, that's unionizing, right? Getting people to come together. That's reaching across the aisle. So I just hope us as a Black community, we open that up to being like, you're gonna earn my vote. Because somebody said, well, Kamala's black because she went to HBCU and she was an AKA. I said, I can show you 8 white women that went to Howard University and are AKAs. I said, that don't make them black. I said, Rachel Dolezal wasn't black and she was dang on president of NAACP.
She was at some point, wasn't she? Or the
Yeah,
second?
that's what I'm saying. Like,
Yeah.
she was the dang on president, a white lady, in
Became
black.
a laughing stock.
Yeah, so now, I think they said now she OnlyFans or something, but the thing is like now we got all the stuff. People are like, oh, you can be a girl, you can be a boy, but you can't be black. And I'm sitting there like the logic, if you have something mental to where you can be a different sex, I'm pretty sure you could be transracial too. So that's the hypocrite that I spoke of earlier, the hypocrisy of people that only want what's good for them.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, and you made some good points. It reminded me of a video that I seen earlier today. And the young man was saying that knowledge is not power. We hear that all the time. He was like, knowledge is power. He said knowledge is not power. The execution of knowledge is power, because you can know how to do a thing, but if you don't apply it and you don't execute it, then it doesn't make a difference. It's not power. It's not using the power that you have if you're not executing. So that's good though. So I never knew that about habitat demand. But like you said, we got to do a better job of that, especially in the healthcare. Because back to that summit I was watching, it was a young lady. I can't remember her name. I think she passed away now. But her whole thing was education. Forget politics. Forget the church, the state of the church. Her position was, no matter what we talking about, we have to invest in education, educating our people. We can't just tell people that with high blood pressure without educating them about eating habits and that you shouldn't eat after 7 p.m. Like, you have to invest just as much in the education of the people so that like they say, when you know better, you do better. But we have to do a better job of educating ourselves. And then again, not just getting educated and having the knowledge of a thing, but actually executing it and applying it to everyday life. Go ahead, Chris.
No, man, I appreciate the education on the habitat too, because my wife actually had purchased a habitat home, and by the time we got married, though, she had been in it for 12 years, and so when we were talking about purchasing a house and moving, she was like, "Well, there's a lot of little rules to what we can do." And I said, okay, well, let's look at the contract. And we looked at the contract, and in order for her to be able to make money off of the sale, she had to pay the mortgage all the way down to within $5,000. And so we had to work on that project. By the time we sold, we owed $4,000 on the mortgage. But how many people are going to be able to do that, um, uh, to pay a mortgage in a home all the way to when it's almost paid off if you go into it as a habitat. Because first of all, you're not going to stay there that long, because most of the time you're in a different uh, financial bracket. If you do, use the opportunity and get an education. You're raising your kids, but then you do better once you get an education. You get a better paying job, and then that's when you're talking about moving out of the habitat home or that community, going into a better community. So yeah, we do need to be educated on those things, but there are a lot of things that we are at odds at in our community, and I think we are too selfish and too caught up into ourselves and to our own world, in order to be able to make a difference with each other. Um, you know, Again, those Chinese families, as you mentioned, the Chinese restaurants, they'll bring one family or one person out of a family to come and work in a Chinese restaurant, learn the business, and then they'll give them seed and bring the rest of their family in to open up another restaurant somewhere else. And that's the investment that they make, with each other. The Hispanics, they live in one house until they can build another house, and then they move somebody else into those houses. Mm-hmm. So you have 4 families, and then you build a house, and 3 more families come from Mexico, and then 3 more families. So you, by the time you finish, you got 12 families and 3 houses, but you started off in one house. So with every 3 families, you're going to build a house. Mm-hmm. So now they're buying houses. They have more real estate. So their equitable power is either equal or higher than of the Black community, because they created a formula and they worked the formula. Mm-hmm. The same thing with we know when the Irish and the Germans came over, they got a handout from the government. And again, many of our people, we're not getting the handout from the government. But I think we have enough power within our own community to be able to come up with a plan, if we can work the plan and really achieve great things with and for each other. And mainly, though, it's for the next generation. I cringe to think of what our grandchildren and children are going to look like if we don't make a change. If something don't happen to turn this tide. It's sad. It's sad.
And Chris, what you said about like all the families in the house, this is the thing that when we talk about money standing in the Black community and other races, my neighbor, when we first moved into this house, it was a father and his wife in one room, probably the master, the eldest son in one room, and the youngest son in one room. All of them, they're all engineers, right? Mm. Living in one 3-bedroom, 2-bath ranch. An Indian family was retiring and moving back to India on the next street over. They paid, I think the guy said they paid $165,000. They didn't list the house on the market. They sold it to the youngest son for $150,000, and they moved. The thing is like Indian folks, they don't list their houses on Zillow, and they only sell their house to other Indians. Hispanics, they don't sell their house. They don't list it on Zillow. They only sell their house to other Hispanics. And right now, they're not even selling. Like one of my friends down the street, we was talking about trust and everything, and he was asking me, and I said, how long you been here? He told me he had 21 properties. And I said, 21 properties? I said, how long you been in the U.S.? He's like, 17 years. I said, oh, you had a company in Mexico? He's like, no, I came here with $570 and I started. And I'm like, dude, you got all these properties. How come you don't get a brand new van? Because I said, you got the bungee cord on the back holding the door open? He's like, the next time he was like, try to open my back door. I try to open it. He's like, he puts the bungee cord on there. He never washed his truck. He's like, because when the people see his truck, they feel sorry for him, so they pay him more money for the jobs. He said if I had a new truck, they'd be asking for discounts. But I helped him. I do a lot of grass stuff, on my own. But he was like, man, I want, could you help treat my property? So I'm like, okay, I ride over there off of Pool. It's off Pool Road. Man, I pulled up. I said, okay, which place is it? He said, all of them. I said, all of them. This joker owned 8 duplexes. He owned I said, you trying to buy up the whole street? He's like, yeah, I got just about the street, but I want to get that street over there. That's the thing. Like, that's what I'm talking about. What I tell, we gotta do. All these other people coming here with nothing. And they thriving, they doing trades, they doing all this stuff. Like, he's done a lot of stuff at my house. And when that joker, he come in, his brother come in, do drywall, guess what? The wife is there, the 14-year-old son is there, and the 11-year-old daughter. The 11-year-old daughter is mixing the drywall mud. The son's walking around with the dryer to dry the drywall. The father on the stilts. And I asked the son, I said, oh, so what's your plan for school? He's like, oh, I just want to, my dad laid the foundation, so I just want to make it bigger. But we got our kids, father's a carpet cleaner, got a van, got all the equipment. Father a mechanic, got all the equipment, got the garage and all that stuff. We don't want to do that. We want to go off to college and major in sociology or something we ain't never gonna use.
Right.
And get in debt. Instead of following the foundation that our parents set.
Yeah.
They laid out, they worked hard so we wouldn't have to. All we got to do is take over a business that's already there. And that's why I tell folks, stop hating on these folks. Trump's oldest son, Joker, went to school for business. His daughter went to school for finance and economics. The next son went to school for organizational management, got his PhD in that. Now, the baby son is in school for business management and political science. He political science, because that's what he planned on doing in 25 years. Running for president and telling all them people that has those $300,000 to $600,000 in the bank, my dad was the one who did this for y'all. And I want to continue to do it. That's the reason why Trump put a term for it to end in 2029. He didn't do it like put it in the law forever. He put a limit on it because he's thinking about 25 years down the line. And that's what people don't understand. So I just think when we talk about these, Indians coming here, which is number 1 in wealth, Asians coming here, which is number 2 in wealth, we got to sit there and what they doing is working. When you talked about Pastor Wooden, I know what no boy just going to approach him to talk to his daughter, Crystal. Pastor Wooden was there with his chest out. He vetting every young man that is Christ first in your life. Well, you going to college. If you pledge in fraternity, you won't be with my daughter. Like, he vetted. That's what Indian folks do. That's what Asian folks do. They vet. That's why they have the lowest divorce rates. Because the family vets whoever comes into the family. So those are certain things that what Chris was talking about. Like, I saw that, and I wasn't even a member of the church. I only went to Upper Room. I was at St. Matthew's. I went to Upper Room twice, but I was always at the gym. Avi, let my son run the concessions. Like, you would have thought my son went to the Upper Room. But that's how open it was. They taught me that, to me, I felt the village. So that's why I have so much respect. And that's why my insight about Chris is so big, because I saw how active he was to make sure that his son saw him helping and mentoring other kids. Not just him, but then respect goes to his wife and sons too, because they had to share him with all those other kids. So that's why, when I saw you was talking to, you know, Chris, I was like, man, I gotta make sure I tune in because I know his history.
Mhm.
Not everything, but I know the history of him
Mhm.
being involved and making sure he strengthens young men versus just being around them just to get kudos.
Mhm.
So
Hmm.
that I just want to give you your flowers and stuff and your props.
Man, I appreciate that.
Yeah, and it
We
was
still
funny because
trying.
you said it earlier, Sam, and I vaguely remember when I first moved to North Carolina and first started attending Victorious Praise. I want to say there was a basketball league we used to have at the upper room where the
Hmm.
churches would play against each other. And I remember the first time I want to say it was Chris. I just remember it was a big dude out there. I'm like, I don't even know why he must really love the Lord because he don't need to be on this basketball court. We about to do this joker dirty. And this joker literally had game. It like blew my mind. It was me,
He have his
Robbie.
he
I
had them
went there,
socks. He had them socks pulled up to his knees. Boy, I still remember.
I said, yo, Chris must be the dude that I remember at the upper room. I want to say they had just finished building the gym, and we had like a little church league in there going on. And that's one thing about it. They was like a representative of the basketball version of Wood. Like, look here. They might be able to participate in this league, but ain't nobody gonna beat the upper room Church of God in Christ. We gonna make sure Joker is ready.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
those
man.
some good
I
old
appreciate
days there,
y'all
man.
with these conversations, man. I'm gonna let y'all get out of here because I know you have been on the road again. Thanks, Chris, for doing this. And I appreciate you, man. Hey Sam, what's the name of your podcast and tell people how to check you out?
Oh, we do it on Thursdays. It's on Starman Films International. So it's growing and stuff. We got monetized and everything. So we're getting little checks and stuff now.
Okay.
But it's definitely growing. I've been on some other ones because I like stuff about the community. And as long as people are talking about how to educate or empower the community, I'm all game, and my gift I think is research. From when I was out southeastern and seminary and stuff and everything, I just love to research. That's one thing. Like I didn't like Sunday service. I like Tuesday and Wednesday night Bible study. I like the actually getting into the dirt to learn about the people,
Mhm.
who they was and how they were brought up. So I didn't like the emotional side of Sunday service because I didn't feel like I learned a whole lot. It was just emotional, but that's we're on Thursdays, and we normally kick off about 8:30. There's a few people on it, but they like travel. Like Hawthorne James is on there. He's in England right now filming. A lot of people remember him from the Five Heartbeats. He was the Big
Big
Red
Red.
character.
Yeah, Big Red.
Yeah, and then it's few people in like the entertainment industry, so they may be out in LA. So like I think when it's 8:30 here, it's 4:30 there, and sometimes we'll kick off at 9 because they got trapped in the LA traffic or something. But for the most part, try to just stay up with it's about current events, but we definitely don't get into it, dwell um on things too much. We try to make sure it's only things discussed that, okay, how are we going to solve it or how are we going to fix it? There's a couple people that come in and guess and they're like, oh, I'm Democrat this and Democrat that, and I'm like, no, it's let's remove the titles. How are we going to help the community? So that's basically what it's about. I know I said a lot to say just a little, but it's normally 8:30, 9 o'clock on Thursdays. And sometimes I shoot you the link, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'll definitely shoot it, but like I said, I'm not. It's on the international thing, so it's on like Fire TV and stuff, and I
Mhm.
think Hulu and Roku. But I always watch it on the YouTube. Anyways.
Yeah, that's what I'll be tuning in on YouTube. And what you got going on, Chris? How can people contact you, man?
Oh man, I'm just on social media. We have some different things going on and in the works. But I definitely I'm on the Green Wonder Network on the Daily Bread radio show. But right now we haven't been doing any shows lately. But other than that, just on social media. And you're gonna find me on church. I love that emotional Sunday morning. That like Sam don't like. I love that emotional Sunday morning, and but at the same time, Tuesday night I'm gonna be in Bible study because I love the deep dive as well. So yeah, just keep me and us in your prayers because there's a lot of work to do. The
Mhm.
Bible does say the harvest is ripe, but the labor is few. The harvest is truly plenteous, but the laborers are few. So keep us in your prayers in the Wisconsin area because there's a lot of work to do.
All right. Appreciate it, man. Again, thanks for taking out this time, man. To share with us. We're gonna be back next Tuesday night on our regularly scheduled night. I might have a musical guest. I'm not sure. I'll let you guys know throughout the week. Um, but everybody stay positive. Um, keep one another lifted in prayer. What you don't have to. I'll try to get people to understand. You don't have to know people personally to pray for people. Um, you can pray for the homeless. You can pray for the hungry. You can pray for the shut-in. You can pray for people in the hospitals that are going through. You don't have to know anybody personally to pray for them, but prayer does make a difference. So let's continue to keep one another lifted in prayer. I thank everybody for spending this time with us as usual. Make sure that you guys continue to love on one another. Let's stop taking life for granted. Let's enjoy the time that we have while we have with each other. Let somebody know exactly what they mean to you. That's why I was glad Sam got to come on and tell Chris how he viewed him from afar, because that's what it's really all about for me, man. I think we got to do a better job of giving people their flowers while they can smell them. Stop waiting till they're in the box and talking, oh man, I didn't even know they don't even matter. Let people know why you can't, what they mean to you, why you can, and why they're still here to receive that. And that they're making a difference in their own little way. Um, but as usual, I love you all. I'll see you guys next week. And as usual, in signing off, DeAndre and Lysa, know that Daddy loves you intentionally, but I also love you unconditionally. So next week, peace.